All right, let's risk it all and talk about Indiana. What's up, kidfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, and I'll bet it is because you're an Indiana fan watching this, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and answer the question in the comments below. Can you run it back in 2025? And I need you to take off your Hoosier-colored glasses and forget that Gene Hackman coached your favorite basketball team and that my Oklahoma City Thunder absolutely destroyed them Indiana Pacers without no Tyrese Halliburton. I'm sorry, dog. Yeah, it sucks that he went out like that. But the champs is the champs. Now that I've also pissed you off, great, RJ. Ingratiate your fans with the Hoosiers this producer said. Let's talk about your team. More than that, let's talk about your head coach, who I like, by the way, and who has been good to me. And that is an increasingly smaller list. Curt Cignetti went out of his way to talk with me last November as they were getting ready to play Ohio State coming out of bye week about what his expectations were for the program, what his expectations were for the Hoosiers, and how everything is going as he said it would, because that's what he does. He wins. We all thought that was talk, myself included, because it's one thing to be a winner. It's another thing to be a winner at Indiana. Football has not been Indiana's bag by any stretch. I mean, I'm telling you this like you don't know. You know, y'all be playing. Y'all wait for basketball season. Football season is something y'all got to do to pay the bills. I get that. But last year was unlike any other season that we'd seen from Indiana. Quite frankly, it was unprecedented. 10 wins for the first time. 11 wins for the first time. Make the college football playoff for the first time. Means Indiana succeeded in making the playoffs before Wisconsin, before USC, before, my goodness, Iowa. I mean, we keep going down a list on this. Auburn, Florida, so many great football programs that we would have expected to punch the ticket to this thing. Haven't done it before Indiana. And more than that, Indiana got in with an at-large bid, meaning they did not win a conference championship or even play in a conference championship game. That's how good that program was. And as much as we were talking noise about Southern Methodist, we ended up talking more noise about Tennessee and not at all about Indiana, because it turns out the Hoosiers were not a flash in the pan. They were absolutely positively good. Some of this is Curtis work, right, which we understand. Some of this is the run game, and some of this is just the caliber of competition that you played. Now, we all believe that the schedule was not as tough as some schedules that were played last year, even in the Big Ten, but that shouldn't stop anybody from remembering that they were 11-1 until they took a loss to the national title runner-up. And this is the feather in the cap that I wish that the 2024 Hoosiers would walk around with. It's not just the 10 and 11 wins. Those are huge. That's massive. It's not just the playoff. That's huge. It's massive. It's that your only two losses all year were to the two teams that played in the national championship game, Ohio State and Notre Dame. You know, Notre Dame took a loss to directional Illinois. Ohio State took losses to Oregon and Michigan. But I mean, those are good football teams, right? Like Northern Illinois is kind of squirrely. We don't know what the hell's going on there, especially putting money in a bag at home at Notre Dame Stadium. But Oregon, that was the number one ranked team going into the playoffs, number one seed and the Big Ten champ. We know Michigan just got Ohio State's number, but also they beat a really good Alabama team that was thinking it should have been in the playoff over SMU or Indiana for that matter. Turns out not the case. Is Indiana able to really do this again? And I think if you're questioning whether or not they could do it again, you're going to question whether or not Curt Cignetti put it together the way he did last year. And I think he did. One of the hallmarks of the Indiana team going into last season, and one of the things that he had expressed, and he expressed to me in a piece I wrote for Fox about Indiana last year, they didn't go get guys that were highly touted out of high school or guys that had sat on somebody's bench as highly touted players out of high school. What he did was go get guys that had started and played a lot of football and proven to be productive. He didn't particularly care whether or not your football team that you played on was pretty good. He cared that you were pretty good on a bad football team. An example of this might be Lee Beebe, who transfers in from UAB, to which some folks would be like, the Blazers suck. Yes, they do, but he was good. And for back-to-back years, he's averaged better than 5.5 yards per carry, 5.3 yards per carry. I think he was one of their better players on that team last year. He comes in with other guys that can absolutely play. Guys like Roman Hemby, who hasn't been as good as he was in 2022 when he fell just 11 yards short of a 1,000-yard season, haven't averaged better than 5 yards per carry since then. But I think with the offensive line that Cignetti can provide, he's going to win with that. And that's the other thing. He's getting veteran guys that can play right away and have been languishing on bad football teams, putting them together, and he's creating a unit out of them. That is coaching. That's what it is. It's one thing to say that he's a great recruiter and evaluator of talent, and he is. Nick Saban's first recruiting coordinator. And recruiting coordinators just don't normally get an opportunity to be coordinators at offense, defense, because they're too valuable doing what they're doing. So he went the long way around, ends up at James Madison, turns James Madison into a monster, takes James Madison FBS, they're still a monster, gets the job at Indiana, where we're going, okay, now the storybook comes to an end. Oh, no, it does not. So what needs to take place in 2025 to repeat that success? You got to win the games that you're supposed to. And Indiana's proven that they could do that. But the schedule is not as, shall we say, easy as it was last year. You got to go to Iowa, to Oregon, to Penn State. And you're going to have a really huge game against Illinois that we think could be for an at-large spot in the Big Ten in the college football playoff. You need Fernando Mendoza to show that he is the guy that he showed at Cal. You need those tailbacks to produce. You need Elijah Surratt to continue to be Elijah Surratt. But more than anything else, you need your defense to continue to hold people to under 5 yards per play and keep a lid on the big plays. They were really good at that last year. Yes, Jeremiah Love broke them off a little something for 98 yards. But outside of that and a couple of other big opportunities, like we're talking about a team that was really good about keeping teams in check, like Ohio State offensively, even if Ohio State defensively went to absolute work on the Hoosiers, took them to the woodshed and showed the difference between a playoff team and a national championship team in that game. That's what I think that was. I'm also going to compare Indiana to Oregon, right? And the reason I'm going to compare Indiana to Oregon is because when Oregon got enough money to go recruit and develop and provide facilities like they can do now, they became winners almost immediately. Like, I still think one of the the most criminal jewel box of all time is NCAA 02, it's 02 03, with Joey Harrington on the cover. I can't think of a quarterback who did less being on the cover of one of the most important video games of all time. But that was where Oregon was headed. Still not a team that's won a national championship. They're still searching, and they can get there. The thing that bothers me most about Oregon and why I'm comparing them to Indiana is Oregon's gone 25-3 over the last 2 years. They've even won the Big Ten championship in year one, and that way they got a lot in common with Texas, except Texas wasn't able to win the Big Ten championship, or excuse me, the SEC championship in year one. Georgia turns out to be a better football team. But as we continue to watch Indiana go from cellar dweller to CFP contender, that is who I'm going to compare them to going forward. It's going to be, are you able to do what Dan Lanning and Mario Cristobal were able to do year in and year out? And I think the alumni base has come alive for Indiana football because Cignetti was able to show, you give me a little money to pay these kids, you let me do my thing, I can give you a winner. And now he doesn't need to make them believe. The belief is out there now. You can see it. You saw what they were capable of doing. You saw what he's capable of doing. And you believe that that's what they're going to do. They're also, both of these programs are going to have two new starters at quarterback. They're going to have a new second punch at tailback. They're going to turn over a lot of the offensive line. They're going to turn over a lot of the defense, but they expect to contend. Like, the benefit of the doubt that we're giving Dan Lanning, because he has Dante Moore, DeCorian Moore, Noah Whittington, Mekhi Hughes, Isaiah World, Dylan Thieneman, Mateo Uyunglele, is the benefit of the doubt I think we're going to end up giving Indiana week in, week out if they continue to do what they did last year, which is show up and just beat people. The thing I also love about Indiana is, I say this often, and I think this is the most important part of college football. You take on the identity of your head coach. Your program does, everywhere you go. And his identity is charisma, self-assuredness, and confidence. If you are that man day in, day out, kids will feed on it. Everybody will feed on it. That's what we do with leaders. We want you to first show us that you're consistent, whatever that consistency looks like. If you're a mean cuss, be a mean cuss with everybody you meet. If you're a nice guy, be a nice guy with everybody you meet. You cannot change how you operate based on who's in the room or who's in front of you. You have to be seen when you're not seen. You have to be able to have people point to you and give stories. Like, this is the thing that I think also drives the sport. There are lots of folks, and I'm mentioning earlier that Curt Cignetti was kind to me. That's the thing that matters the most. If you get to meet a person that you've seen on television or maybe you've seen even on YouTube, whatever, and you get to meet that person and they're an asshole, you're going to tell everybody. And you're never going to want to see that person again. But if you do meet that person and they're kind to you, they ask you your name, they shake your hand, they take an interest in you for that short amount of time that you are in their presence, you remember that forever. Like, I gave up on the Dodgers for damn near 20 years because Hideki Nomo and Mike Piazza walked right by me as I'm standing there with a baseball in my hand. Now I see all this video and photos of players spending hours just signing stuff. And I'm overjoyed for that, because not only are you giving that kid, most often a kid, sometimes an adult, but that kid a memory, a core memory they hold on forever. You probably have made them a fan of whatever team you play for forever. And that matters as much as anything else, man. That's the connection between sports and whatnot. I got to see this person. This person was kind to me. He knows that I think the world of him, and he was like, nah, it's cool, man. You got it. What do you want to be when you grow up? Want to be like you? Cool. Get to work. Come get my job. And I say that to kids all the time. Come get my job, dude. If you want it more than me, you're going to have to want it a lot. But you can go get it. A lot of people that do this for a living, a lot of people I don't think are very good that do this for a living. A lot of people don't grind that do this for a living. But if you're willing to do that, come get it. The thing that stops us from being athletes at a high level is we just lack the talent. That's why you hear coaches just yell about, can you work a little bit harder? Because there's no working on turning your right arm into a thunderbolt. There's no working on you running 4.4. There's no working on you being 6'5", 250. You either have it or you don't. And if you don't, it sucks, because there's nothing anybody's going to be able to do for you. But if you got something else, like Jose Altuve can hit dingers, we'll find a way. Chop that wood. That's Indiana to me. Indiana showed up to play. Oregon shows up to play. If you show up to play each and every week, give yourself an opportunity, you'll probably win more games than you lose. But that's the difference between 7-6 and 6-7. What we're talking about is excellence week in, week out, year in, year out. I think Indiana might look at Oregon and decide that's who they're going to be.